you. Thanks for tuning into the Waiting List podcast. I'm Long Long.
I'm Daniel.
And I'm Jacqueline. And we are three watch friends with a healthy obsession for watches.
So sit back and relax with us while we chat with collectors, industry giants, and share some good vibes. Welcome to the pod, guys. And today I'm really happy to welcome my friend from Turkey. It's Alp, who many of you know as Langepedia, the IG guy. So welcome, Alp, to the show.
Hello, guys. It's a pleasure to be here.
Nice having you on.
Hi.
Great. Right. I didn't know beforehand that you're actually a listener of the pod. So thank you so much for supporting it. I personally love asking this question, but how many episodes, have you liked? And
I like many of them. I mean, I guess it's a must now. I mean, you guys are doing a tremendous job for a long time now, and with your guests, which all are amazing. So it has always been a pleasure to listen to you. But I mean, I guess since our last chat, I guess I told you as well that one of my favorites were definitely Silas's. So yeah. I hope to be at least somewhere close, and not on the level, but somewhere close to that.
Well, it's down to the interviewer. It's down to the interviewer. Anyway, we totally appreciate all the love and support, and I'm really looking forward to this one. Really, this will be a two-parter, guys. So sit tight and enjoy the ride. The first part is really Alp's story, and the second part is where we just go mad into Langer. And obviously he's an expert in that area. So we've never had that before. Here we go. Right. So where are you now, Alp, at the moment? And where do you spend most of your time?
I'm in Istanbul, and I arrived again on yesterday. And I am going to leave today again back to Berlin. And most of my time is divided between Berlin and Istanbul, and partly visiting my family in a small town near ancient Smyrna, so to speak.
Okay. Right. And how old were you when you got into watches, and what was it about watches that interested you?
I was 13 or 14, I guess. Really an obnoxious teenager when I really got into it. And what got me into what was pretty straightforward, it was due to Federer, so to speak. Mm-hmm. I mean, as the guy is a hero and wears a Rolex, so I had to, wear a Rolex. So that was the entry point. And then it just got down really dangerous from down there. And now I'm sitting with you guys, ready to talk about watches for like 2 hours.
Right. That's great. So let's get straight into it. When and why did you start Langapedia?
Right. So when I started it was 2016. I was a first year student and in the university. And the idea was to, I would say there are two windows to that, I guess. One was to connect with, I would say, like-minded enthusiasts around the world who actually appreciates Lange, because as you guys know, that the Lange community was not nearly as crowded or, how to say, as popular as today, where you couldn't find any of the Lange collector that you're looking for in the street, or I don't know, any watch get together, I guess. So the idea was to spread the word on this amazing brand, which I thought extremely underrated. And also, to meet with collectors, like-minded guys from all around the globe as much as I can. And the other part was about its future prospects, so to speak.
Okay, can you elaborate on its future prospects? Because I think you also had like personal and professional reasons for starting.
Right. So with the professional reason was, so I always wanted to work in a watch industry, so to speak. And in my first year as a student here in Istanbul, I remember going door to door in the watch street that we have here. So in one of the street, there is Vacheron Constantin, and the next end, there's Patek Philippe, and everything in between, like JLC, Panerai, IWC, whatever. And I remember going door to door to these guys, starting from the biggest ones, obviously, just asking for a job for a 19-year-old guy. I don't want any money or I don't want any payment. Just let me in and teach me, how this works from the business perspective. But obviously, I got rejected from all of them. Luckily, I got some catalogs from Vacheron, so that was cool. But after that, it started with actually it was a Panerai boutique manager back then. I got into the Panerai as one of my last resorts. And after that, the gentleman there, I asked them, I am this guy, I'm really into watches. So if I can work for you guys pro bono, and if I can learn from you guys, that would be great. And then the boutique manager just snapped from inside and said, yeah, I can make use of, from a guy like you. And that was the entry to the watch industry for me, a really small one. So I was working at part-time with my studies as well. And after that, being into the watches more and more again, I really decided that I wanted to do this, in the headquarters of the company, so to speak. But again, being in the watch industry, even the smallest part of it, working in, one of those headquarters as a guy, let's say, who doesn't speak German, who doesn't speak French at the time, and who doesn't have an EU passport, which is a, huge block. You don't have much of a choice, right? Because there's always a guy next to you who has this, how to say, EU passport, who speaks German, who speaks French. So you had to do something entirely different to actually, put your name in front of there as well. So that was the professional reason to start Langepedia, saying that, okay, after 4 years, I'm going to make this page, a cool one. And I am going to perhaps, make a name for the page itself. And perhaps when I apply, I can already show them that, I know a lot about your watches. I know a lot about the community. I am part of it. And so if you want to hire me, that would be great. And that was like an active curriculum vitae, so to speak. And that was the professional reason.
Mm.
Did you not fancy doing a Panoramicpedia?
I could write about bronzos for like 300 times, I guess.
Yeah. Like, I don't think by the time you'd finished like your, I don't know, first post and got to like the 50th post, you'd have to re-edit your first post about limited edition bronzos.
Right.
Because they'd be bringing them back out again, wouldn't they? Like broken promises after broken promises.
Absolutely. That wouldn't be my fault anyway. So it would be okay.
I want to know, okay, so you secretly have this passion for Lange, and it's like the products are beautiful, and then you're working at Panerai. So when you go to work and your colleagues are discussing these Panerais, like, look at the new release we're about to release, blah, blah, blah. Do you play along and you're like, yes, this is amazing? Or are you just like silent?
Yeah. I love how refined their hands are.
Yeah.
Look at the movement.
Well, I think it has its own beauty. So, so for me, it was all right.
Yeah. All right.
I have a question. Yeah. So obviously, like, you started the page and then you were almost like forward thinking, right? You said, oh, if I were to apply for jobs later on, I could just show them the page and they would know the extent of my knowledge. So my question is, with this kind of strategic approach to going about, maybe getting a job in the watch industry later on, it sounds like you knew right from the start what you wanted to do. Was it very much like that? And actually, and then the follow-up question was, like, you were just starting university, like how, and from a, like, I guess like a hobby perspective, and you wanted to do it pro bono, like, did you have some forward thinking that after I graduate or something, I want to work in the watch industry? Was that like that for you? Like, you knew you wanted to come in at the very beginning?
Right, absolutely. Starting with your second one. So before business administration that I studied computer engineering for like a year. And, in my time as a computer engineering student, I really felt that, this is not the path to go for me. And, with my, undying passion for watches, I really thought that watch industry would be the way for me to, make a living for myself in the end, perhaps. And after a year of studying computer engineering, I dropped out from there and then changed it to business administration to create, a better time for myself so that I can also chase, these part-time, workings in the watch industry, So that was the goal, definitely, just right from the start. You know, and you know, to your first question, as it was a really long time thing, definitely, you know, that was, how to say, calculated step by step. And you know, from, I don't know, everything you would hear from a social media consultant, I guess, you know, it was just started and made the path. So yeah, it was a long time plan right from
That's
the start.
great. That's great.
Yeah.
Like you could, I mean, you're obviously famous for Lange, but actually you're passionate about all watches. Now we can talk
Right.
here and we can talk about a lot of watches, right?
Right.
Like, why Lange, apart from the side that you thought it was really niche? In social media, you know, something very niche also takes more time to
Yeah.
nurture, right? I mean,
Right.
you would have got really far probably with RMs, with Rolexes, you know, potentially with APs. You know, there isn't an AP page, there isn't an RM page, and there isn't, well, you could say there's a Rolex Passion Report page.
Right.
So how come you didn't think, you know, I want to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
open a page for that if you're thinking about like the industry and work wise, you know, because I think
Right.
most people would think, well, I mean, maybe you can answer the question, but you know, you'd go like, I want to go Rolex, I want to go to Patek, right? The two biggest.
Right. Right. Yeah, with Lange, I mean, I guess it was a natural evolution in a sense. What I mean by is, as I said, I started with the lust of what Federer was wearing. So for me, Rolex was the king when I didn't know anything, right? And I remember going to the forums accidentally, you know, forums like Watch Pro site or Purist back then, or timezone.com, and you know, venturing into the subheadings. And you know, when I was looking for a Rolex, I then started doing this alphabetically, right? What kind of watch brands are there actually, you know, for me to learn even more about this stuff. And then that was the moment when I, you know, accidentally went into Lange forum.
Because
right?
it was it was at the top.
It was right at the beginning. So, you know, I ventured into this forum and I remember seeing the movement photo of the first generation Datograph from the forum moderator back then. They called him Uncle Edwin. And I mean, that was a sensational photo. And I just remember saying, okay, so Rolex is a watch, obviously. And then this is a mechanical watch also. So, I mean, how come that these two things are entirely different, right? And then that was the ignition point for me to really go into the mechanics and then the craft and then the history of these pieces. And obviously, you know, when you start from Lange, back then, as I said, no one was into Lange. I mean, not no one, obviously, but not nearly as today. So then I ventured into other guys. The next one on the alphabet was Audemars Piguet. So then I ventured into Audemars Piguet, and then going down and down to Patek Philippe, etc. Obviously, all of these brands are making exceptional watches. I mean, there is no way around it. Nobody makes a sonnerie or a repeater like Piguet or Patek Philippe, you know. And then you have this amazing chronograph, etc. But for me, when it comes to Lange, I guess there were two things. One is, you know, how are we always affectionate towards the underdog? So it was kind of like that from one sense. Like, I mean, these guys are doing amazing watches too, but why are there, I don't know, 5 posts a day on Lange forum and 50 posts a day on Patek forum, right? Nobody cares about these guys. And then the second one was the story of their brand. What I mean by story is, obviously, I talk about Walter Lange and, you know, how he got into, again, reviving his, you know, family brand at the age of 66, coming from Pforzheim to Dresden again. And basically, it's like a rising of Phoenix, right? To me, both as a guy into the historical facts and also the, strategy. And the way they built the brand, again, with Günter Blümlein, was an absolutely fascinating story. So for me, you know, that was the place to go, you know, to find myself. And I guess I can say that I kind of matched myself with it as well, because Walter Lange had to do something entirely different to, again, put his family name down there as well. And I guess for me, that was kind of an inspiration as well.
Talking about families, what did your family think when you told them that this was what you ultimately wanted to do?
Right. Obviously, they didn't know something like this existed. So for them, it was really hard to understand. I mean, up until the last year, I still remember my father saying that, I mean, why don't you go into a bank, man? I mean, are you crazy? So, I mean, are you insane? So for them, it was hard to understand. Like, even there is an industry like this, right? But I mean, in time, I walked them through on, how it was my thing. And but they already know that I was into watches, obviously. But they never thought that this was going to be a huge industry for me to, I don't know, make my living out of it, I guess. And yeah, for them it was total surprise, but now they are fine with it. And if you ask them, even back then, they're just going to tell you, yeah, he works into watches, and that's it. They're not going to have much of a clue.
Do they go on your site and see what, like, basically the things that you've built, and what do they think about it?
Right. My father actually, kind of speaks English, and so he ventured into it a couple of times. And what he was saying what it looks simple, he said. I said, yeah, man, you're right. That was the goal. I mean, and in the end, we're not selling like, I don't know, enhancement products, right? So it had to be kind of simple. And he said, yeah, perhaps, you can put more animations. I said, right, I'm going to think about it. But yeah, they were quite happy to, I don't know, see it, something really small from their son, I guess.
That's great.
So do you get that sense of feeling that they're really proud of you now because you actually made that out of nothing? And to be honest, we're going to go on to, where you went on afterwards, but you are a full-time Langapedia, something you built from scratch, and you've made it a success. So is there a sense of pride there?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. I remember the first time that, even I went into Lange. So whenever in Turkey, it's quite common. I don't know how is it with you guys, but so if a family friend comes in, or I don't know, another friend of your parents, if they come in, one of the first things that they're going to ask them is, so what does your son do, right? Or what does your daughter do? And so for them, it was really hard to explain in the beginning, like, he works with watches. and many people obviously didn't get, what's going on. But now I guess for them, I can elaborate it a bit more. And what they say is, yeah, he has his own business. And for them, it's definitely a good thing, which makes me really happy.
What were the immediate barriers to running Langapedia? For example, you don't have all these Langers. So how do you get all the photos? And people I think people know now that English isn't your first language. Right.
Yeah, the language was the first barrier, as you said back then. So how I learned English is completely from the TV series, or just from the streets talking to tourists, I guess. So I had zero grammatical structure. I had zero storytelling. And for me, it was my luck, I guess. So from the first post up until the 20th or so, I guess, I would write the post in the worst way possible, but just telling across, what this watch is about. And then I would send it to my girlfriend, who has an amazing English. And she would just, correct it grammatically, and, perhaps a bit of conjugating words here and there. And then it would look like something you would like to read. And we started doing this, I don't know, for 20 posts or so. And she would send it back to me. And then, I would compare the two, and then trying to learn, how this actually grammatic structure works. Because otherwise she would kick my ass, I guess, after some time. So I had to learn. And so that was the first barrier, definitely. And on your first question about, obviously, yeah, I didn't have any of these Lange watches. So it was twofold. From the starters, it was mainly from, from forums, from the collectors that I know from there, right? Asking them if I can use this photo, and I would give you the credit or whatever you want. I don't care. And then, but at the time, at the page grows, it became possible to actually reach out to collectors, or they would reach out to me and say, would you like to post about my piece? And then, it just got a lot easier from there on.
That must have been Andy Jang, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he was probably looking at your followers and thinking, I need to get in with this guy. Like, can you repost my watches and make me look great, right? Come on.
I thought you were gonna say, can you repost my face?
Sounds like Andy.
But I mean, I guess like what you're trying to say is that 20 posts in, that's the limit of like what a woman can take in asking you to translate posts, right? Like, actually right from post 1, you're on limited time, right? So you're thinking in 20 posts, I have to get this English nailed down, right?
Absolutely. That was a kick that I never got in my life. So I was racing ahead of time, right? And it was either making her really angry towards me and saying that, dude, you're incompetent, so just go away. Or obviously I had to learn the language. So
I love when you first told me that. I love the fact that you said that, because a lot of people, they all see the final product of Langapedia and how polished it is, and even the English is like so polished, and it's so well curated and prepared, and they would have never thought that that's how you started. Because they all like to think you had 3 people under you, and you were telling everybody what to do, and it just goes to show, like, if you start something, you do actually have to put the work in, like every part of the work in, right? And I love how behind such a beautiful page is something as mundane as thinking, how do I even write a caption?
Right. Thank you.
But is she like a Lange expert as well now, since she translated so many passages?
Absolutely. She became one unintentionally. So definitely, she's very happy about it. But now she still kind of confuses between Zeitwerk and Stefan Zweig, from the author. So so for her it took a bit of time, but I could say she is better than the most.
Okay. So I want to ask, where did you get all the information from about these pieces?
It was mostly in the forums. That's another funny story. So going into the forums, as I said, in 14 or 15 with zero English, for me, it was like a kid trying to read a picture book, right? So I didn't understand what any of the guys were talking about. So I was just looking at the pictures. And then I said, man, you got to read what these guys are saying. And from there, I started using dictionary, using translate, etc. And actually, that got me pretty good, I guess, as well. But it was mainly from the forums, I could say.
Okay.
And I guess it's still one of the best places to learn about watches, because these guys were into watches when not nearly as many people were around. So they got into this completely out of pure hobby. And when you got something into pure hobby, I guess you delve into it like nobody else, right? Because it's your passion first and foremost. So learning from these guys, I can say, definitely helped me to curate all of the things that I wanted to write about, make it structured in the first place, and then actually, putting it onto words.
Yeah. I just want to say, like, I really value your attention to quality. right? Because a lot of people have tried to do something like what you did, and on paper it looks easy, right?
Right.
But not only do you have access to the information and you put it in a concise format, but the way you had the uniform display, the quality of the photo, even if somebody did that, they were never at that quality. Yeah. And I just wanted to say, like, I really admire that you kept such a high standard. It's almost like you realized that presentation is key in luxury.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you very much for your words, man. It really means a lot to me. I hope I'm half as good as you say. And,
No, I'm just doing it for the podcast. It's all about packaging and presentation, remember?
Right. It's the key, man. But yeah.
It's not about you, it's about me.
But I mean, yeah, that's the thing. Absolutely. I first started from the wrist shots. I don't know if you remember back in those days. I guess it was complete wrist shots, and but then I said, yeah, perhaps I should change it to this uniform format where I only focus on watch and nothing else, right? And I mean, I think, as you say about the presentation, that's 100% true. I mean, what we are into it, I guess. I mean, it's definitely, we are into it for history. We are into it for, I don't know, the craft, etc. But I guess, I mean, this is a visual hobby in the end, and you need to put it out there in the best possible way you can. And I'm definitely not saying that I'm not even close to that. I guess it is a collected man who's putting the best photos of any watches out there. But what I'm doing is something that again, as an amateur photographer, I was searching in a way which would perhaps make it uniform, and also make it look good and kind of saves me on time as well. So then I kind of transitioned into this area.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I want to know when I keep reading this question and I'm trying not to laugh. Okay, so when was it that you started to notice success? Like, was it when you got associated with Andy Tsang, or
or was it when you got associated with a long time?
Yeah, definitely the latter. But yeah, what was it? So it was, yeah, I can definitely say that. It was a couple of posts into it, and I was obviously, so before starting posting anything or something, I had this roadmap saying that, okay, I'm going to post in, I don't know, every 1 of 2 days. I'm going to post at this time. I'm going to tag these guys. This would be my language on how to speak, etc., etc. And starting from the first post, I would tag 20 guys, without skipping a beat. It was always the same 20 guys, unless they notice, I guess, what I was doing. And at the time, there were only one Lange account, and that was Langeholic. He was the boutique manager in Palm Beach, Florida, and I would just keep tagging him and trying to get a response from here and there. And the moment, I guess, I said, okay, so this can be something good, was when Langeholic came in, started to share my posts and commented on it, etc., etc. And yeah, that was the time I said, okay, so let's push the gas, because this might actually happen.
As your page grew, a lot of people, a lot of collectors started to reach out to you talking about Lange. And most people that are into Lange, this is a generalization, but they tend to be more of the seasoned collector. Obviously you start off with the main brands, then you start to filter out and you go to maybe like Lange after, collecting a few pieces. But you hadn't amassed a collection then. You had just started this page. It's easy to be overawed with the multitude of different strong collector personalities, some with egos and some perfectly being gentlemen and ladies. how did you overcome those initial insecurities of engaging like this high net worth and yeah, this kind of clients?
Right. Yeah, I guess not seeing them as a client definitely helped. I mean, in the end, they were just, for me, they were friends from all around the globe, which actually was one of the fundamental reasons that I started this page in the beginning, to connect with like-minded enthusiasts, right? So when we connected, I was, which I still am, really happy to actually exchange information, finally talk watches with someone else, and actually talk about the brand that I love. And so for me, it never became a problem. But now, since you're asking, I guess one thing that, working at a Panerai boutique definitely helped to actually, talking with these people as well.
It's different demographic though, Alp.
Yeah, it is. I mean, but back then, you got to remember, man, Panerai was really at the top too.
Honestly, if you can sell a Panoramicpedia, I feel like you just become fearless. Like you can sell anything.
In my pre-call with Alp, I was saying there was a period where Panerai were like Pokemon. Like everybody wanted to collect all the Panerais, right? And then suddenly, as fast as it came, just died. And I think that's part of, I actually do think, the brand management of that wasn't great. But nobody really talks about Panerai now. So I mean, it's like, that's why we're having a good laugh over it. But yeah, it was hot, right?
Right. I remember we were in one of these events. This was when 2015. And obviously, so everybody got a lot of Jack on the Rocks or a lot of whiskeys in these events. And I remember my boss back then, who's like a brother to me now, saying a lot of visitors there. Okay, so there are going to be only 3 brands that you're never going to lose value and actually always increase in value. So this is Patek Philippe, and then you have the Ferrari, and then you have Panerai. So I said back then, dude, that's a bold statement. This was the peak time, as you say. And but yeah, after that, it didn't go so well.
That aged well. That saying aged well.
Yeah. Absolutely. If you ask him now, he's gonna reject it that he said it. He said it. But yeah. Back to your question, I guess. Yeah, for me, it grew naturally. As I said, talking with these people, just like you said, definitely at the beginning there was kind of nervousness, like how do I even interact with these guys? But then, just like as you say, I mean, these are amazing people mostly. I mean, I got an author, let's say Gary from Northern California again. I mean, Gary has been an amazing gentleman as always. And, we would talk watches. I would ask for his photos if I may use. And I mean, he would just share whatever information he has whenever I ask him something. So for me, it has never been a negative experience.
So as your page grew, right, you actually got your job, right? Like at Langer. All that actually happened. So how did that come by?
Right. So this was really close to ending my studies. So again, then I was working at one of my professors' consulting business, and I said, okay, I mean, this is a good paying job or whatever, but I mean, that's the other thing that I have been building for the last 4 years. So I guess, it doesn't hurt to actually ask Lange if they would value of anything that I was working on. And up until that point, for 3.5 years, I guess, I was keeping myself completely anonymous from anyone, because, anonymity just breeds curiosity, I guess, because everybody was trying to learn, even from Lange. saying that, who is this guy? I mean, what the hell is he doing? And, you see like, hey, I don't know, one of our top collectors, or, where does the guy reside? And I said, I just decided to take a shot, and I sent them a message from LinkedIn saying that, yeah, I'm this guy. I really like your watches. I'm really interested, and I am the guy behind Langepedia. And like 5 minutes later, I got a reply back and saying that, yeah, we would like to meet with you. And then we had a quick phone call the next day, and I mean everything was sorted out really quickly. But obviously I got the blow from my Turkish passport, because it took me like 6 months to get the working permit. So but I was patient for 4 years, so for me 6 months was nothing, I guess. And yeah, after all that time, I was in Gloucester, actually working there. To be honest, for the first couple of months, or yeah, I should say every time I went there, I mean, for me, it was literally living in a dream. I couldn't believe that actually I am going into the family house of Ferdinand Adolf Lange, and I actually do have an office, in his family house, and I am actually sitting right next to the guys, watchmakers, who I've been following for 10 years. And now they are just, I don't know, like 10 feet away from me. And I had the chance to walk in the manufacturer like countless times, or whenever I want, basically, just to sit down and talk with watchmakers, take the tweezers in my hand and trying to put the Ratrapan module on the turbograph. And, so for me, it was a tremendous experience, and I felt grateful, every morning going to Gloucester, every evening leaving there. So for me, it was just amazing. Yeah.
You've basically detailed the whole thing from when you got into watches, and how this was a strategic approach to, try and get a foot into the watch industry. You isolated a problem, you tried to remedy it, your best using the best tools you had available. Right. And you actually landed your dream job, in the watch industry. How does that actually feel, where something you have planned for 4 or 5 years,
right?
You've reached the end game with Langapedia, what you wanted to do, and it actually happened. How did that feel?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it was definitely a proud moment, the moment that I got the call from Lange, because just like as you say, this is something that you work for years, and with this intention in the beginning. So again, it was definitely a very proud moment. I felt really grateful, and I also knew that I was very lucky, to actually landing into this thing. I mean, I can still say, I guess the flight from Istanbul to Dresden is still the most exciting 3 hours that I've ever lived, I guess.
Oh wow! But how did you get past the German?
Yeah, I didn't quite get past it still, because I think it's impossible.
Okay, you learned the dirty words first, though, yeah.
Absolutely.
But everything in German just sounds like swear words.
Yeah, I can testify that. Absolutely. I mean, right. It's a tough language, definitely. And I'm definitely, not passed over it. But I mean, I guess, so this is how it started with English as well. My first words were,
you got a German girlfriend, and then you asked her to help you.
Yeah, I would ask my boyfriend about it. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, for English as well, after the swear words and the basic things like yes and no, the moment that I really got into it was, I mean, about watches, like dials, hands, I don't know, the bezel or whatever the stuff that you will hear in the watch industry. And for German, it was the same. It started with trying to describe what I would write in Langepedia in German. So, because, I mean, it was work related in the end too. And so after that, it got better. But I have a feeling that it's never going to go this good.
I want to know that ironically, after planning so long to get your dream job and then finally getting it, why is it that you didn't stay on for longer and you only ended up staying for about a year?
Right, right. Yeah. So I guess in all these years preceding my work at Lange, for Langepedia, I created a certain tonality, a way of interacting, and as you might guess, it was not very how to say corporate. and, but within the great team of the brand, you need to adjust to certain things, right? In the end, no matter how much you try to differentiate between your two personalities, you become an employee, and the company, I guess, has every right to ask you to behave in a certain way, according to their brand image, according to how their employees should speak about the brand. How should they actually communicate with their most important assets, which are the clients themselves, right? So I couldn't adapt this for a long time, because I always tried to separate the guy Alp from Langepedia. So Langepedia should, speak on its own way, and so I couldn't adapt this for a long time. And here, I guess I can wholeheartedly say that Lange team was extremely tolerant and welcoming, but some parts just didn't work just because of this, how this Langepedia thing should supposed to work, right? And so it was the best way for both of us, I guess, to part ways in the end.
It's kind of like bittersweet in the fact that this thing created this opportunity for you, but then at the same time, it was the reason why you had to leave at the same time, right?
Absolutely. But it wouldn't possible without it as well. So, I think it was a great thing.
So it sounds like, you have to make a decision between like, Lange and Langapedia. And then I guess, is it your heart went for Langapedia?
Yeah,
of course, that's his baby. That's his baby.
Absolutely.
Was it like your baby, as people say?
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. That was the exact phrase that I use, actually. Like, so this is my baby that I grew for like 4 years, and it's not going to change. So I guess it's better to continue on that path.
I think you made the right choice. I mean, this is obviously not about Lange, but if you look at Austin, Harloop, I think in the beginning, a lot of people connected with the page, right? Beautiful photos, very informative, everything. And I think there was so much discussion in the comments section that it was so nice to go in there to read the comments when their new release came out. But then I think it kind of went downhill when a lot of the Panther and a bunch of stuff came out, and it was just too politically like correct. It was always like, no, there's nothing wrong with the watch. And then people just like, oh, there's no voice there anymore. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I agree with Long there. And that's where I value, that actually you decide. I mean, I'm going to say it for you. I mean, I could be wrong here. I'm not speaking for Alp, right? But I'm saying, like, to me, outside and hearing what you said, you put the freedom of speech on your page, number one, even above your employment, and that's people need to like actually sit back and actually just take that in for a moment, right? Because we're influenced right now more than any period of time. And like having spoken to you, before this call, that was something that really like just was so clear that you are, when it comes to that, you're actually very unwielding in your personality. Would you say so?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yes, because integrity and being true to whatever you believe in. I mean, these are the things that I guess defines your personality, basically. And as I said, Langapedia in all these years had its own thing, its own personality. And I guess without that, freedom of speech or writing whatever I believe is right, was the fundamental thing that actually got the page grew and come to this point in the beginning. And although, as you say, just the clash between how I speak there and my employment ended in a bittersweet way. I mean, I still see its benefits that it brought me over the years, because now I am, buying and selling watches, and friends that I got over the years know that if I am, posting about a watch for sale, or if I want to buy something, then they know that this is an important and a beautiful piece. So it worked for me great in the long run, and which I'm very much happy with my choice.
I think
Yeah,
it was more like bucket list item for you. Obviously you started, we were talking earlier, right? When you started uni, you knew you were always passionate about watches. You knew that ultimately you wanted to work in the industry, but back then, you didn't know how it was going to progress. So in your mind, you said, okay, ultimately I want to work corporate, right? And I want to see the behind the scenes, which ultimately you got to do for a year, and you got to meet the people of management and talk with the watchmakers who you've been following for a decade or so. And coming out from that, not only did you gain network from within the brand, but also I would say it ultimately 100% strengthened your identity as Langapedia even more so, right? So I think, I also agree with what your choice was, that even though it was only a year, even though it was bittersweet, but you made the most out of it. And coming out of Langa, you knew even more what you wanted to do. So it was more like a checklist item. You don't necessarily need to go back, but you just had to do it just once to kind of prove to yourself, hey, look, after 4 years of building this little pet project, I actually ended up achieving my goal, and I came out of it knowing more certain than ever exactly how I want to do the rest of my career. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
like
great.
you in hindsight, right? It's easy to see, like, Alp, you're like proper entrepreneur, right? You took a risk, you worked really hard at it. You're absolute go-getter, with the whole LinkedIn and working at Panerai, pro bono, all that kind of stuff. It's textbook YouTube entrepreneur style. And then yeah, I've seen all of those videos. And then
You got me.
but then you had the ability to know when even something as important and with much gravitas as the job at Langer, which was your target, you could also let go, like, relatively easily, because you were very clear in your mind. And that is, what I'm getting from this interview, which is like fantastic. And like I said, it's great in hindsight, but this is, to your parents, you've said, I wanted to work in the watch industry. I've got into Langer now, right? A year later, you're back at home, right?
Yeah.
And, this is like before COVID, and you move in with your parents. Like, what is going on in their head? What's going on your head? What's happening?
Right. Yeah. So that was a week before COVID actually got into the level of pandemic. The time where we parted ways with Langa, and I said, okay, so I haven't been seeing my parents for months, and I guess this is now a good time, just to say hello and and say, yeah, I mean, a lot of things changed again. I've been telling you that this was my dream for the last, I don't know, couple of years, but now I am out of it. So that would be a great way to explain it to them. So I went back to Turkey, and a week later, Germany shut down all the borders, and the travel in EU stopped. So I had 90% of my stuff at my home in Berlin, and I had only my suitcase with my parents. I went there for like a week, but then ended up in a stay for like, I don't know, 3 months, I guess, at the time. For them, I just explained them, what were the things that got us to this point, and how did it happen, etc. And I mean, which I am very much lucky that they were always supportive for all my life, and for this part as well, they never said anything, and they just said, yeah, I mean, you're gonna find out, and we are very much happy that you finally with us here, because right from actually my high school years, I was on a boarding school. So I was never at home for the last 10 years. So for them, it was an extreme moment of joy because finally their youngest son was at home. So they were happy that we parted ways with Lange, and I was actually going to stay with them.
That sounds like mum talking. It doesn't sound like dad talking.
Yeah. The dad's like, I told you to go to the bank.
Yeah, the business administration. You didn't listen.
Absolutely. I was expecting that, man. You know, I'm not lying. I was expecting that. But I mean, but even he was really, really, supportive and said, yeah, man, I mean, it's your pet and you're going to figure it out. So he was definitely okay with it. I mean, not as vocal as my mom, but he was okay with it.
Now, what I will say is in my short career and short experience, right, when I've had occasions where it has been like that, where I've had to go with my tail between my legs back home, and you are worried how you're going to say something. Every time, my parents have been the most supportive. Like, they haven't reacted in the way I thought they would, right? Because it's almost like a parent thing. They realize this isn't the time, and this is the time to give support and love. The lessons can come later, right? So yeah. Anyway, moving on. During this period, you started to put your mind about setting up a website. Yeah. So what was the idea behind, suddenly coming up with a website?
Right. The initial idea with the Instagram Langapedia was actually making it a website. But working part-time in the store and then the studies, creating a website was extremely demanding because I had to learn everything from the scratch to do it myself. So it was just not the right choice at the time. I didn't have time. And actually the whole publishing articles on Instagram was an answer to the question saying that, okay, how can I translate the website feeling to an Instagram medium, which nobody else was doing at the time. So, that was Langepedia was the end product of it. And when I finally got the time in my hands during COVID, because I couldn't move anywhere in the world, I couldn't even travel to anywhere. And at the time, there were also, no company was sure what's going on. So it was also kind of pointless, for them to ask, okay, so do you want to work together? You want to hire me, etc. How can we work together? So I decided that it was the best time to actually sit down and while my mom is cooking my meals and I have a lot of time in my hands. So let's just.
I'm sure your mom's really happy you said that on the podcast. Yeah. That's all she does, just cook your meals.
Yeah. And so I said, yeah, this is the best time to actually learn, the basics of web development, I guess. And as my father says, it had to be quite simple. So I didn't have to work a lot on it. So yeah, I sat down on it for a couple of months and then prepared a lot of articles for starters as well. And there was no end goal in the website creation thing, but it was just something that I wanted to do right from the beginning. So I finally got the time and ventured into it again.
Was the end goal not to come onto this podcast? Sorry.
The truth is, Alp, I very much appreciate your PR answer about, how you always wanted to set up a website at the same time as Langapedia. But in truth, right, it's because you actually asked your girlfriend and she couldn't do the English. She had enough of it, right? She said, I'll do the post. I'm not doing the website. That's the truth, isn't it? Come on, come clean.
Absolutely. I mean, even if how much of an angel she is, I didn't want to burden it to her anymore. So
she's sitting next to you right now.
No, she's sitting behind the camera.
Yeah, I know. Okay, let's move on. So Alp, how did the opportunity to work with Watchbox come about, and how does it work?
Yeah. So after creating this Langepedia website thing, it's got a tremendous response from the community, which I'm very much grateful. And after that, I started to think that, okay, so what can be the necessary next steps? But I literally, haven't put any thought into that. And after that, writing such in-depth articles about this stuff that, most people haven't really read about yet. From explaining the, inner works of a chronograph, which I always wanted to do, and to, whatever the differences between the generations or whatever. It started to, getting shared from here and there. And then out of nowhere, Mike Manjos from Watchbox sent me a message actually from Instagram. We were following each other for quite a while, but we never got into, any of the conversation. And then he said, yeah, dude, I love what you're doing. Would you like to just sit down and chat about watches and, what can we do? And yeah, I said, all right. And then we had a meeting, and, we thought about what can we do together. And then the idea came up to, turning Langepedia's, part into a marketplace for people to actually, browse and perhaps buy and sell watches. So this is how it started with Watchbox, and it is going amazing because Watchbox gave me every freedom that I need about the stuff that I would like to write, stuff that I would like to avoid. For example, obviously there are watches in the modern Lange catalog, so to speak, that I don't like, and I think there are better values for those pieces, for example. And Watchbox really doesn't care, on which piece I put out there, because I only want to put out the stuff that I myself would wear in the first place. So I have complete freedom, and that's why it's working great.
Mm. And Alp, so what would you say is the next iteration in the Langapedia evolution?
Right. I guess there are two ways that I am thinking about venturing into. One is definitely making it more physical, because obviously talking with people from all around the globe for all these years, which I had the fortune to meet with many of them. I would love to, right now, when the travel is really easing and the world is coming back again, I guess my next goal is to visit places like Singapore, especially, and from there to Japan, and to actually, be with the guys that I have been talking with so many years. So I guess that's definitely the next step that I want to do. And other than that, I am really much into going into, multimedia space, on video space as well. Like, if I could talk about the literal history of the brand, even from the pocket watch days, which nobody talks about, at least in the English speaking countries. That is something I definitely want to do.
Mm.
It's great that, you want to make it physical and go to Singapore and Japan, both places that none of us three are. Right?
Yeah.
So you want to, you don't want to see any of us. You want to come to Asia, but you don't want to see any of us. Like, thanks so much, Alp. Cheers, mate.
You're right, man. I'm sorry. Yeah. That are just examples.
Yeah, that's a geez, Dan. Okay, final question. So after all the success and your journey with Langapedia, what is the biggest lesson that you can give people who are looking to start something?
Yeah, I guess it's just plan good and, venture into it, I would say. The first step is always the hardest, I guess. And, when you take on it with a good planning in the back, I guess things just develop naturally at some point if you put your passion into it. And it is magical that people can really feel if you are really into the stuff that you're talking about, if you are really caring about, what you're speaking of, and if you are really the guy that you talk as. And when you have those, I guess it's just coming naturally.
Mm.
Okay.
I just want to follow up with that. is,
Right.
you know, if you were listening to this interview the first time, didn't know anything about Alp, you would also think, God, man, like, yeah, he planned it really well, but there's a whole lot of luck involved. And it seemed like everything just
Absolutely.
lined up with you, right? Like he did this, then this happened, and then, you know, Langer called him, and then he got the job at Panerai, and then he also got, like, you know, Watchbox now. But, you know, were there any ideas that you had that didn't actually work, that was shit?
Right. Okay. Yeah, I should think. To be honest, I can say no, because I haven't ventured into anything else. Because that was the only thing that I went into. I mean, I got into one thing and it got 100% success rate. So,
we just made him look worse.
Yeah. I gave you the chance to sound great, yeah, and you just, like, you said 100%. So there's only one way that way. It's down. Right?
Yeah. And then he continued to laugh at all the failures.
Yeah.
I mean, the failure was, you know, right at the beginning. You know, just like we talked about. I mean, going into all of these boutiques, and none of them worked, actually. I mean, the job at the Panerai came like a month afterwards. And
Alp is like, you moron, see what you missed out on.
I mean, so that was a huge blow in the beginning. I mean, working at the Panerai was a second blow, but no. No. I'm kidding.
No, what you should say is, Alp, what you should say is, like, as soon as you left, Panerai tanked.
Absolutely. So that was a huge blow in the beginning, definitely. And but even within the Panerai context, or because these guys were not only managing the Panerai boutique, that is another luck aspect that you talked about. So the owner of the boutique was they still are has a huge retailer network here in Turkey. They represent, I don't know, 15 brands at least. And back then, even in the 90s, they were the authorized retailer of Patek Philippe and Langapedia, etc. This is, I learned, I don't know, a year after, you know, I got into the Panerai boutique. And so when working with these guys, I created Langepedia in 2016. And then a year later, I learned that these guys are going to be the authorized retailer of Alangazzone in Turkey as well. So all of a sudden, I got access to everything, you know, that I ever needed in terms of photography, in terms of material, in terms of, I don't know, whatever you can imagine. I mean, even back then, although even they didn't know that I was working on this Langapedia thing. So for them, it was quite a surprise too. But they gave me the access to everything, and that definitely proves the point that you talk about luck. Actually, I was definitely very much lucky, and I'm really grateful for that.
You don't want to use it all up in the first part of your life, though. Jeez, I mean, how lucky can you be? Right? Jeez.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm unlucky from the hair and baldness perspective, but this part works. So.
Right. Well, that ends the main interview with Alp. It was a real pleasure for you to take us along that journey of yours. And thank you for sharing so many details of your adventure, your own personal adventure. It's your turn now with the reverso round. Right.
So with Daniel, I'm going to ask you more or less the same question, actually, because so you started with a couple of gentlemen and ladies there as Shanghai Watch Gang, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And you know, after some point, actually, you started, you know, working with the brands, or, you know, doing events, and turned into a business. And how did it work out for you? You know, how proud were you, and where is it going next?
Well, I don't think I had your luck, right? So, I don't think I had your luck, and I probably would have decided to go bold in change of the luck. Basically, you know, event space during COVID was basically a non-starter, right? So it was irrelevant to even try. Even the biggest fair like Watches and Wonders 2 years ago, COVID actually killed Basel as well. I know Basel was mismanaged and stuff, but COVID basically put in that last dagger into Basel, and it never recovered and is unlikely to. And Watches and Wonders, SIHH was actually also in a very strong, difficult position. Now you've got something really beautiful as Watches and Wonders and all the brands coming together, which is what everybody kind of wanted. But in Shanghai, yeah, it was just too difficult to do. Ostentatious show of wealth is always a tricky one, in China. And then if you think about COVID and the uncertainty, brands couldn't fly over to Shanghai. Also, there's that immediate consolidation of, okay, let's not do things outside our real comfort zone, because we might need to basically save for winter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened. So it became very difficult to do. China is always an attraction for basically brands to come in, because the market is so strong and it's so unknown. Yes. But I guess you do something and you learn from it. And the transition from Shanghai Watch Gang was, I didn't want to just do the odd brand event, with brands, like how everything is done now, even today. You bring people down and people buy watches, because, a lot of those people were your friends, just like the collectors speak to you about stuff, right? That freedom, that neutrality has a high value, super high value, right? Once you compromise it by doing that, you're your friends won't keep coming to events and keep spending money anyway. And it's not like they don't know what they're buying. So what do? Do you do the merry-go-round with all the brands taking the same people and getting that money? It's nothing which is longevity there. So then I decided to do Shanghai Watch Festival, because I thought that gave more to the collector. Collectors could meet up, talk to people, talk to the actual watchmakers. These people, they might not, we can't all fly to Switzerland and see all these people. Yeah. And even if we did, right, not everybody speaks perfect English, and you have to travel even between the watchmakers themselves. Let's try and get them all in one room. So that was the idea of that. That was very well received. And so we did it again the second year. And then that's when COVID hit. And then I think what that taught me is you have to go digital, right? Mm-hmm. So to get that information out there now, great for the offline space, but it can't be around what your core business is based around, right? So it has to come from the digital, and then the events can be an add-on, whether it's marketing, because anybody that's physically coming down to one of these events, is your real target market. You can get the exposure and all the figures, the KPIs on the digital stats, but if you want the real core people of the database that are buying, they have to be passionate, right? And they will come down to those events. So that's where I would kind of think we went wrong, and we should have gone digital. We were trying to go digital and that together. I think, just as what you did is focus on one thing, right? So focus on digital, and then just plan it strategically until you get to the next place. So that's where we're at, trying to, again, be on the education side, because people were coming up to us because they assumed we knew a lot about watches, right? Yes. Same as you. So can we put that? I don't want to have that conversation all the time, right? And actually, to be fair, I'm tired a little bit of it. So why don't I just create a place where people can go and get that information? So that's what we're working on right now. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Best of luck with that.
Thanks. Give me some of your luck, mate.
Yeah. I can try.
Yeah. Skip the hair. Skip the hair.
Yeah, it comes as a package, dude. So you gotta accept it on that. For Lang, I'm gonna ask this. So you are now a kind of a celebrity in the watch world with all the interviews and all the publishers about yourself, how you got into it and your collection. And have you ever thought that this would go this way when you started into watches? And how does it feel? What difference do you see from back then and now in the watch community?
I think, okay, so the first part is that, one, I didn't expect that. And I kind of regret, my biggest regret is I wish I went back and I would still show my face, but I should have made it anonymous. That was one thing. But initially when I did it, I was more thinking about if I could just connect with 1 to, let's say, 5 girls, that would have been enough for me to just be like, okay, let's form a small community and then we just talk about watches. But it kind of blew up faster than I expected. And then that evolved into, this is actually comical that people are taking me seriously, because I know from meeting collectors, what I know is not even a fraction of what they know. So the more the interviews come, the more I find it funny. So I'm at this point kind of taking it as a joke where it's like, oh, wow, you're still taking me seriously. And then since you want to do this, like, okay, it's just churning out stuff for me. It's easy, you know? And I think in 5 interviews, I'll probably get 1 or 2 messages from girls that actually go, whoa, this has been really helpful, blah, blah, blah. I'm now moving into this kind of collecting. What do you think? And those kind of messages make me feel like, okay, this is all worth it. But overall, to me, it's just an experience. Like, kind of going behind the scenes and seeing like, okay, this is how a PR company works. This is what the watch brand's are actually thinking. That's all that I ever wanted to know, like what was going on behind the scenes. And now that I see it, I'm like, okay, then the rest is just not important. It's just funny for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel you. Yes. And
especially after having seen how PR companies work.
Absolutely.
And what Alp was saying just now about like, you got to be passionate about what you like. And I'm like, I'm really passionate about Starbucks and they haven't reached out to me at all.
Yeah, perhaps you should start like Starbuckspedia. That's
like, yeah, I will.
Or McDonald's.
Yeah.
Absolutely. With Jacqueline, what I'm wondering is, you take tremendous shots of rather unknown and under the radar watches, and I mean, I can tell you that when you post I don't know, Moritz Grossman, let's say, I wholeheartedly believe that their sales jump at least 20%, right? because I mean, you can't believe how many messages I get from the postings that you post. I mean, it's a German brand, right? Moritz Grossman. People are asking me, what do I think of that brand? which is stupid. I mean, why don't you ask you? I don't know. And they got into this brand or whatever the watch that you put on. And I mean, how do you curate this under the radar selection? And I mean, where does it go? Do you always look for something that is unknown? It is the chase for you, or I mean, what's the stuff behind that?
Okay, well, just to tell you, Alp, that the Moritz Grossman was actually a sponsored watch that people don't know about. No, it's not. That of all the sales that I made possible, I got a 50% commission. But shh, don't tell anybody.
I think you need to come clean, because like people are actually going to believe you.
Yeah, they
are. Okay, that's total bullshit. Sorry if you believed me. But Moritz Grossman, if you're listening to this, hey, write to me. I love your brand. I love what you're doing.
That works only once.
Nobody's listening.
Panoramicpedia is going to be listening to this, and Panoramicpedia is going to reach out to
you. Yeah, but all seriousness, no, that wasn't a sponsorship. That was, I'll tell you what, I'll first, I think it's funny that people are writing to you about Moritz Grossman. But I did, now thinking back to it, when I first posted that watch and I shared it with, some group chats I was a part of, people were very interested in, and I was shocked by how many people all like also wrote to me and kind of asked about, oh, why this brand, what's it about, why did you like it, why did you go with the choices that you made. And I kind of just was shocked that people kind of liked what I designed, because it was my own design. And just talking it out with other people, I guess, made them realize just how much value there is still left to be found in the current market. Moritz Grossman, I've known about the brand, but it wasn't until actually a collaboration that Waco did with Moritz Grossman, did I realize, wow, that is really nice. And the reason why that all of a sudden jumped onto my radar was because of the size, right? Moritz Grossman are usually 40 plus sizes, and their cases are really beefy. They're really strong cases, and especially for the hermetic watches. And I actually was able to try their only watch from last year on, and it was just huge. It was huge. So, when I saw that watch, it was a 37 case as opposed to 41, 42. And then I thought, wow, 37 might still be a little bit large. Let me try to see if I could find something within their current lineup that works for me even better than how the 37 might work. So reached out through the help of a friend, and they suggested this case that they actually don't make a lot of, because it's the case design is called Tefnut, and it's a 36 millimeter case, and it belongs to the ladies collection. And I wasn't aware of it. And when they brought it up, I was like, oh, that's perfect. I don't care if it belongs to a ladies collection. I think it's actually great that it belongs to a ladies collection. But obviously, it had diamonds on the ladies like regular production models. I didn't want any. So without the diamonds, when you removed the jewels, it actually looked like a very different watch. And then I read about the history of the brand. I knew that they were very famous for their hands, and they're all hand polished and handcrafted, and they're so thin, fire treated to this very ultraviolet purple bluish color. And I wanted something that matched the hand, so that's why I went with plum indices. And so the whole entire process, it wasn't like painstakingly difficult. It was actually very straightforward. I looked for a case size that worked for me. I picked the dial color, the type of the dial, which is grunt foot, and then the Roman numerals and the color. So it was very straightforward and simple. And that's why when people started messaging me, I was blown away, because I didn't put that much thought into it. At the moment, I just thought, what a great brand. Like they're doing something right. I want to be a part of it, right? So yes. I'm very happy that people have messaged me and now are saying that they've also went forward with their own special commission pieces inspired by my piece, but then like my piece was inspired by Revolution's piece. And I think it's great that I don't need the recognition of having a unique piece. And one guy even asked me, do you mind if I do it like exactly like how you done it? And I was like, yeah, sure, go ahead. Like I can even send you the blueprint and everything and the invoice with the exact descriptions. I don't really care. I think it's great. And going back to your second question, which is under the radar watches, I think it was kind of a coincidence that, when I started my collection, it started with vintage Cartier. And I've said this many, many times. The reason why I started with vintage Cartier was because of the price. It was relatively affordable and nobody really cared about vintage Cartier. And it was complete luck for me as well when I chanced upon a Tank Louis. And when I held it, I was like, whoa, this is so different from what Cartier now sells, right? This was 2 years ago. So I looked at the marketplace, what it had offered, and I bought so many of them in a very short amount of time. And then that was December, that was late 2019. And then come spring of 2020, all of a sudden Cartier started blowing up thanks to a mutual friend of ours. He was bidding on a crash, and I think he was the first guy who had bid that, I think, past 100K for a crash, and it made headlines, right? And all of a sudden, people
inside job.
Yeah, inside job. That was, see, what people don't know is that was also planned. I'm not and then all of a sudden people started realizing about Cartier, and I started getting tagged in all these Cartier posts of random people, even when I was posting about Omegas and Rolexes, but I was getting mostly tagged in Cartier posts, and people were coming to me asking about Cartier information. See, I should have started Cartierpedia or something at the time, because it was so random, but it was great. Like I met so many people through it. And so once that kind of thing blew up, you know, I prefer to be relatively private. And when something has become so hot, it kind of, and I feel sad admitting this, but it kind of changes how I see it, because the initial, I mean, we say this all the time, right? I don't care about what other people think. You just wear and buy whatever you like. While that is true, I don't have control over all my emotions. And it just felt like when, I don't know, the crash got to this extreme amount and everyone was wanting one, I was remembering back to in 2019 when I traded an FP Journe for a crash that back then nobody really wanted, because I really liked it. I really liked the design cues, and I went to hell getting that watch because I was traveling. It was Christmas time. The watch was in London. It first got shipped to New York. It got shipped to the wrong place. And then it got shipped to Japan, and then ended up didn't have a strap because the strap was alligator and they couldn't ship exotic leathers. And then I wanted to wear it during my Christmas party, but then there was no strap. So then I had to ask this guy, my friend who makes the cases for my cameras, make me a strap so I could wear it. And then I traveled with that watch to Japan. I rode in the rain in Kyoto with that watch. I did everything with that watch. That was the only one that I brought. But now it's like kind of changed. And because I know I had that memory, and now that wearing it out, it feels different. It kind of was this like little secret baby that I had. And now it's become something different. So that's why, you know, I guess subconsciously, I look for these brands or vintage pieces that fly under the radar, because I like that connection of having, I like the connection that I have with a piece of object or a watch that's like a nod in respect. You know, if you know, you know. And it's kind of unspoken thing between me and the watch. So maybe that's why I look for, you know, brands such as Moritz Grossman or I mean, I wouldn't even call Laurent Ferrier like that, but still relatively under the radar. And then with the other watches that I bought recently, you know, when I bought them, I mean, this is not, I guess if I say it like that, people are going to think I'm flexing, but it's really not. Like when I buy them, nobody really cares about it. And then it just turned out that after a few months, people started buying into it. And I'm like, well, I'm glad you guys are all having fun, but you're also taking fun away from me. So I have to keep on looking for other stuff like Movados or other stuff.
So you're as humble as Alp then. And then,
I know. Yeah, well,
like it's thankful that me and Lang are on this podcast, you know, just to make it so that we don't all come across like that. But after your little speech on Moritz Grossman, if one post brings sales up 20%, I don't know how your little speech is going to do to affect their sales, at least 60%.
So anyways, Moritz Grossman, if you're listening to this, my phone number is
right.
They're doing tremendous watches.
Right.
Yeah,
We've
thank
got to
you.
move on. Got to move on. Right. Devised the pump push around. And you know how this goes. It's a bit Turkey centric, right?
It is.
Right.
Okay.
Go.
First question. Tell us one thing about Turkey that we should all know, but don't.
The kebab that you're eating outside of Turkey is not real, so you have to come here.
So it's not authentic.
No, not even authentic. It's something entirely different.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hey, don't kill the doner kebab like that. Don't kill it.
No, man.
Yeah.
Wait, what about the Turkish coffees we have outside of Turkey?
Yeah, I guess they're better.
More authentic than the kebabs. Okay.
Yes, definitely. But kebabs are like, I don't know, -10. So
Many a
Yes,
drunken
there you go.
night has been polished off with a beautiful kebab.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, there I agree. Yeah.
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 But
Okay,
if you're
next question.
sober, then it's a crime. So
All right, next one. Tell us one thing about Turkey that if we told someone, we would sound like we really know Turkey. Some inside knowledge about Turkey. Like, so if I said it, they go, "Oh, you've been, you know about Turkey," but actually, we've never been.
We can be like, you know, Alp, and then they'll like, oh.
Absolutely. They would make fun with you. That's one thing. But other than that, you you can tell them they're not riding camels anymore. It's surprising that even in this day and age, you know, how many people believe that actually we ride camels here in Turkey. But yeah.
Okay. No camels anymore.
Yeah, no camels here. I guess that's one thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Third question.
One Turkish delicacy other than Turkish delight.
Baklava.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Is it true that they put pomegranate inside?
What? They put what?
Put pomegranate inside baklava?
Pomegranate. What is it?
Pomegranate. It's like a fruit.
Dude, his mom cooks for him. Don't grill.
Yeah, look, he has to Google it. He doesn't know. What are you talking about?
Never mind.
No, pomegranate. No, I've never heard it. No, baklava.
It's the red
baklava
fruit,
is-
and if you open it up, it's like little dots.
No, I know pomegranate. I never heard that they were putting it into baklava.
Okay. So it's
Not that
true.
much, you know.
Yeah.
But no, baklava is they make it with pistachio with walnuts, either one of them. And the best ones you would find with they cook it with butter. And
nice.
for the best ones, just message me.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Basically, message your mom. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, man, I'm a lot good at eating.
Make
So
another pack.
I hate how I came across in this podcast. So,
But you're being authentic.
Yeah.
It's okay. We have the second part to prove yourself.
Right. My one aspect of Turkish culture that you'd like to share.
one aspect of it, yeah, from Turkish, I guess their intimacy. I can say one thing.
Right. Okay.
Especially if you go to the southern eastern region here, it is something that, I mean, I don't know, the people would treat you like you're the king. What I mean is, if you go to their places as a guest and they don't know you, right? You just met them in front of their shop for like 5 minutes, and the guy is going to invite you at home for dinner to, I don't know, give you whatever delicacy that he has, and just offer you the, I don't know, best meal and conversation that you ever seen. And this is something so regular in that region. It's crazy. I guess that is something that, you know, I'm kind of proud of.
You
Right.
see, I would love that, but then the average Chinese would just be scared the shit out of their parents if like a stranger invited them to their home.
Absolutely.
Because the number of news of kidnapping or like holding
Yeah.
people hostage.
I just think like right now in Shanghai, like, dude, if you invited someone to the house, they would eat your house clean.
Yeah.
Like, you'd have no food left, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, next question. The best non-Turkish dish that you love to eat?
Pizza, I
Fake-
guess.
Fake
Pizza?
kebabs. Okay.
Yeah, pizza, it should be.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I still remember the one in Naples. I mean, that was something else entirely. So for me, it's always going to be at top, I guess.
Mm.
Okay. A Turkish dish that foreigners have difficulty accepting.
Right, I have the best one. I don't know how to say it politely.
It's okay. You don't have to say it politely.
No, I
Yeah.
don't. What's I have to check the animal's name.
Oh
I'm sorry.
no.
Is it
Is it
like
like the private parts of some
Yeah.
animal?
It's like
Right,
the balls
right,
or
right.
something.
but
Oh,
since
yeah.
he says that people don't ride camels, so is it the camels?
No, it's what it's a ram, but no, it's not a ram.
Okay.
But something like bull, but from the
Mhm.
sheep region. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
They are the bulls of the sheeps.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know.
He's
I
not
don't know
saying
that.
balls,
So-
he's saying balls, as in like the bollocks, right?
Oh.
Yeah. That's
No.
Oh.
I'm saying, so
No,
the
he's
male
saying
sheep,
the animal.
I don't know.
Oh.
yeah,
Oh.
the
Yeah,
male
the-
sheep, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
male sheep.
Yeah, but yeah. So
The
we,
testicles of the male sheep.
Yeah, the balls, the private parts,
right.
right?
We grill the testicles, and that is something that people are having a hard time accepting it.
Yeah, no shit.
But I mean, it's
Yeah.
So you've
But I mean,
eaten it before.
Acceptable?
no. I mean, I don't eat every day, right? But
It's like, Alp,
Yeah.
what's your daily routine? Oh, I wake up, I pop 2 testicles in the oven.
but especially in that southern eastern region that I told you about. So the
Mhm.
second reason that you should be careful that they cook it a lot.
Alright.
I mean, they grill it, right? And
Mhm.
but I mean, it is interesting. It is so much tender. And,
Uh-huh.
they spice it very nicely. So it's a good dish that I mean I like, but not many people are trying it.
Yeah, I would eat it.
Okay.
I would
Yeah.
eat
I would
it. I've
totally
seen
eat
it
it,
cooked
yeah.
online. I've never
Yeah,
eaten.
absolutely. It's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Next one. One thing in Turkish culture that is considered rude that we would not associate with other cultures. So you could like be rude unknowingly.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. I don't know. I guess one thing, I don't know how accurate is this, or I don't know if it's a good answer or not. But so when I was living with when I was in exchange studies in Prague, my roommate was from Canada, and the other one was from US, from the other room. And so whenever I make a joke or do something, they wouldn't laugh like a lot, but they would just say, ha ha ha, that's funny. So and I would just ask them, dude, I mean, if it's funny, just laugh, you know. Don't tell me that damn thing is funny with your serious face. And here in Turkey, I mean, it's the same stuff. If you tell someone and you don't show emotion, but I guess, I mean, tell someone, yeah, I mean, you're funny, and it comes across extremely rude to those guys, because you know, Turkish people mostly live with emotions. So for them, it is very important for them to, you know, just see you, I don't know, see you laughing to their joke or whatever you're talking about, and not telling them.
So when Turkish people cry, they really cry then. Or else it comes across as not sincere.
Yeah.
If you just drop a tear, it's like, dude, you're rude. If you're really sad, you would be like,
yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
absolutely.
Basically, it's like North Korea. You have to like really cry.
Or be really happy.
Absolutely. Yeah, you gotta
Oh,
show.
that's interesting. Interesting. Okay.
I guess it's kind of
Yeah.
like Japanese people. They're always laughing, but you look at the eyes and there are no wrinkles there. It's like just stiff. And they're just like, ha 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 ha. And then you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Next
Okay.
question.
Next question. One thing that Germans do or have within their culture that surprised you.
Oof, many things, I guess. Yeah, Germans are an interesting breed. Let's think. Which one is it? I mean, what always surprises me with Germany is how straightforward they are. I'm not necessarily talking about, conveying their thoughts or emotions, but how confined they are in terms of their thinking. Right. That was for me the most surprising thing that I've ever seen, because I mean, Germany was obviously and still is kind of an industrial leader in the world, and especially in terms of engineering and what's going on. But each one of these guys, perhaps you might say that as a result of capitalism and maximizing efficiency, each one of these guys have an expertise area or a thing that they have been told, right?
Mm.
And if you ask them something, outside of their, I don't know, what they were allowed to think or what they were taught, I guess, then for them it is something extremely hard to, give you a definite answer or even to think about it. For them, it's not a question at all. So you should just ask the other guy who's specialized in it. For me, that was very surprising, because in Turkey, everybody has an opinion about everything. So that was something different.
Mm.
Okay.
All right.
Next question. Have you been outside to Asia? If so, where? And if not, where would you like to visit first? I know you kind of said Japan and Singapore, but we're just going to ignore that.
So where would I want to visit in Asia?
Yeah, come on. I'm not. Come on. You know what to say.
What countries are there other than Singapore and Japan?
Yeah. All right.
No, no kidding.
Yeah. All right.
No, definitely Hong Kong and Shanghai. No kidding.
Yeah. All right.
Absolutely there. I mean, other than that, I would say Mongolia for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
You can have plenty of sheep testicles there.
I was thinking
Absolutely.
the same thing.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, it's a completely different experience as far as I can tell, from the videos and stuff. So for me, it would be amazing.
Mm.
Great. Well,
and I like to ride as well.
Great. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast, Alp. That was amazing. It was a good laugh, and thank you very much for sharing your story. I'm sure you came across perfectly as you wanted. Right? We will see you guys on the next one. Okay. Cheers, guys, for listening.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
As always, thank you for listening to the Waiting List podcast.
We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. And if you have any questions,
comments,
or feedback,
feel free to reach out to us at the Waiting List Podcast on Instagram or via our private accounts.
We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.